There are a lot of ways projects can fail. So in this video, I want to share with you the 3 principles that I follow to make sure that my clients are satisfied and also that my projects are highly profitable. The way that I do this is by following these 3 principles that I'm going to share with you on this video. So if you like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe to my channel and also consider joining my Systems Mastermind community. Now let's get started with the first one, the project scope. This is what you need to make sure you have in place for every single deal. Every time I didn't have this, it ended up in scope creep. This is the term you use when you have additional requests from your clients and you're fulfilling them because you didn't set boundaries and expectations. So make sure to have a project scope, which I'm going to show you in a moment what it would look like. And you have a set list of things that you do and you don't do. The things that you don't do are also very important because you need to define what you do and what you don't do. For example, when you're building automations and systems, your client may expect that you're going to also do data transfer. From my experience, data transfer is the worst thing. It's literally so time consuming and it needs to be very detailed because if you are transferring the data in the wrong way, then you have to redo things. So that could lead to lack of trust in the system and potentially a client that churns. So the project scope defines everything that will be built and everything that will not be built. Now the project scope is part of the delivery. So I'm going to also share with you the timeline, right? Let's say you started here, you have a sales call, you close the deal. Then what next? I would highly recommend you have some sort of proposal when you list out on a high level what you're going to build and what you're not going to build. And then once you've closed the deal, you've signed the agreement with the proposal, then you also share the project scope with your client. Sometimes you can share the project scope before you sign the agreement. So then that is also clear what you are building and what you're not building, but you can also send it afterwards. So let me share my screen and show you what the project scope looks like. So this is what it looks like. I have a template that I use for myself and then I duplicate it for every single client. And this is where I add all the details of the systems and automations that I'm going to build. Over here, I put the deliverable. And then right here, I define the systems, automations, and maybe other stuff like SOPs, etc. Over here on the side, I also select the week, when exactly this will happen. And once I am done with this, I also show them like the assets, like documentation, what I'm going to build for them and what the offboarding is going to look like. Now, this is really, really important. If you don't want to work forever for a client and add more things on the scope just because you didn't define things or you're trying to compensate for poor delivery, then this project scope is going to save your life and your business. And I will tell you that sometimes I've had also difficult clients that wanted more than what we agreed for, right? Like constantly new change requests and new things going on. And I'm fine with change requests, but there has to be some sort of like stop and some line that we don't cross because then we're just running a charity. So this is the first thing here. And I would highly recommend you create one for yourself and you use for every single client. I know it may seem like it's too much and you don't need it for your clients, but it's better to have it than not have it because the moment you don't have this, you will have to work extra and maybe even risk your reputation because your client will be unsatisfied. So that is the first thing. And I also mentioned the proposal. So let me also add this. The proposal is frowned upon by a lot of people. They think they don't need a proposal and whatever. Why do you need a dog? Like we agreed, it's really not sexy. But on the proposal, what I do usually is I set expectations. So let me show you an example of a dog that I have created for an actual proposal and the expectations that I set with these clients. So as you can see here on my screen, these are the expectations that I set with the CEO, business owner, and the team. The reason I'm setting expectations is because I want them to understand that I am not their employee. I am not someone that they can treat however they like or that they don't do their part and still expect everything to be delivered on time. So for that reason, I set expectations. I used to not do this and I had a situation where a client expected me to build just about everything and then they were constantly late with their tasks. So what that led to is weeks and weeks where we were waiting for something. We were waiting for literally the client to review a document and tell us this is good. And the client was not doing that. So at the end, the client was like, well, why is it taking so long? And you probably have had this situation too. In that scenario, I was like, damn, I really didn't set expectations with this client. I didn't set expectations that I'm not going to babysit the client and I'm not going to follow up 1,000 times. If I follow up 10 times and you're not responsive, I'm not going to reach out once again. It is your business. You are responsible as well. So these are the expectations that I set, and some clients that are using this same framework on a marketing coaching offer that they have, they told me that this has significantly reduce their cancellations and chargebacks because everyone is on the same page from the get-go. There's nothing that is hidden or, things that we figure out later on. So this is how I use my proposal in a smart way to also set expectations. And on the proposal, as I mentioned before, I also tell them what I don't do. So data transfer, maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't, right? For the right price, I will do it. And the same thing should apply also for you, right? For the right price, a lot of things can be done. But if I'm going to sell for a lower price, there's no way I'm going to transfer like thousands of records or try to figure out what kind of deals you close. So then you have a nice dashboard with all your deals and average contract size, etc. So these are the two principles that I always follow, and it adds a little bit of work on my end, but I have created those templates and I pretty much duplicate them or have automations that are duplicating them, and then I create them for each client that I am onboarding. Now, let's go on to the third principle. The third principle that I follow is what I call the containment framework. So here's the thing. You may have a client who is upset and they're spamming you with messages. Now, if you've been running a business for some time, no matter how good you are, clients will always be upset about something. There has to be one client who will just not like something and they're just going to start spamming you with messages, and there's going to be this whole back and forth. Now, I had a situation once and it was really upsetting because we delivered a lot for a client. We had the scope creep because I didn't create the project scope back then. And we were trying to just deliver everything just to make this client happy, because my goal is to always get things to the finish line. Even if I have to bring someone extra in the team to deliver, I just want to get things to the finish line. So what happened with this client is this client is a very emotional client, and they would message me and say, hey, this automation failed. Why did it fail, etc. However, I had already communicated to that client that the automation is being monitored. So we are expecting bugs, we are expecting failures. It is really normal, and we are on top of this. But the client was upset still. He wanted that automation to go live and to be flawless. So what happened there is that the client was spamming me with messages, and then what I thought was right is to answer. And this is maybe what you are doing as well. When you get a negative comment from your client, you just rush to answer and try to make the client calm, and you try to tell them and justify yourself and explain and shitload videos. And that is wrong. That is absolutely wrong. You should never engage into these back and forth conversations via text. The reason for that is because oftentimes when people are emotional, and you can tell from the way that they are texting back and all that, they are not listening. They just want to vent. They just want to express their feelings. They are not listening to reasons and logic, right? No matter how hard you try, no matter how long your texts are and how logical everything is, the client is not going to respond positively to that. So what should you do instead? Instead of feeding this conversation and constantly nurturing in a way your client to remind them again of this situation, because remember, every time you're responding back, they go back to their phone or their laptop, they're like, oh, damn, this situation still, yeah, I'm so pissed off. And you are escalating this, right? And you're constantly adding on top of this until it erupts. So instead of doing that, try to not send long messages. Instead, send a short message and say, hey, this is what happened, and really, really short, or try to solve it before you even respond. And then what you need to do is schedule a call. You have to be patient, and you have to schedule a call. Even if what your client is telling you is completely unfair, irrational, or even if it is nonsense, you need to schedule a call and discuss it on a call. I have realized in the past 5 years that usually people are really comfortable texting and being agitated, but then when they are on the call, they are more rational. So you can coach them through this. You can tell them what everything looks like and what it should look like. This is a trap that you may fall in. So instead, try to diffuse the situation, try to not respond right away, try to solve the thing, and then respond, and then schedule a call. So these 3 principles are going to save you a lot of time, money, and a relationship with your client. You can burn bridges and you can just consider a client churned, but every client that is working with you has a network, and that network can become your client. So make sure to follow these 3 principles. These are principles that some of them I had to learn the hard way. I had projects that I worked for hours and hours and over-delivered, and still the client was upset because, well, it didn't take 3 weeks, it took 5 weeks. Why? Because they were not responding. So anyway, if you don't want to have the same experiences, which are not really fun, and oftentimes not related to how good your system is, but the relationship you have with your client, then I would say follow these 3 principles. I shared with you on my screen exactly what the project scope looks like and the expectations. Do it and you'll see how much easier it will be to work with your clients, because now you are on the same page. Thank you for watching. If you're considering joining the Systems Mastermind, then check in the link in the description. If you would like to work together on your systems or maybe on a coaching or consulting basis, then schedule a call with me and then we can see exactly how I can help you scale your business to 100K or up to $1 million per month. I'll see you on the next one.